order, and welcome to Mud and Blood for episode 3 of Valley of Blood, our Warlock actual play series. Last week, I told you all that I would explain the political and religious landscape of Svelsing before the session, so here it is. Svelsing, the small valley-locked nation that this game is set in, has recently gained its independence several decades ago. It's long been squashed between two imperial powerhouses. To the west is Strussland, the nation the player characters are acting on behalf of, which is ostensibly based on late medieval Holy Roman Empire. To the east is Nissia, a large isolationist empire that occupied Svelsing for several centuries before suddenly withdrawing a few decades ago. Nissia is loosely based upon medieval Russia in that whole region, while Svelsing, predictably, is very much based on Poland, Hungary, Bohemia, Serbia, etc. You get the idea. Strussland to the west, Nissia to the east, and Svelsing is the nut and the cracker. More than geography separates these nations, however. Religion is a key point of difference here. On the surface, it's very much the same. All nations adhere to religions that are born from the same root source. They worship the sun, known as Solarius or Solaria, and the moon, known as Lunaria or Lunarius. Urius represents darkness and predictably evil, basically a devil figure that no one's allowed to talk about. All nations to the west, including Strussland, adhere to a sect of this faith that is reminiscent of Catholicism, while Nissia is more of a classic Orthodox faith. The idea, from a game perspective, is for the two to be the same but different, to create tension and uncertainty for the players, and for the characters to engage in, whilst trying to be delicate and diplomatic. This is played up heavily in this campaign, as missionaries from the west are doing a good job converting the traditionally Orthodox nation, igniting tensions in Svelsing. And it's within this tension that one such missionary, Victor von Hoffmann, has forged a loyal following in the nation's underclasses before vanishing. And thus, the party is here in Svelsing, seeking him out and tiptoeing their way through political crisis, hoping to avert some sort of conflict between Nissia to the east and their home of Strussland to the west. But anyway, enough waffling on from me. Sit back, put your feet up, get a nice hot drink, and enjoy the show. Flies buzz around you in the late afternoon warmth as a crisp spring breeze does real service, if anything, to the smells of the slums as you make your way towards the large cathedral. As it's getting later in the day, there's a gathering of the unwashed masses, as it were, coming for their supper and later day services. You can see priests and initiates making their way through the flock and administering to those who need help and services in regards to their well-being, as quite a lot of people, clearly in pretty significant distress, gathering around this church as Lorenz and Veronica make their way up. So what is it that you guys are wanting to achieve here at this church? What's the plan here? How do you wish to achieve it?
I think we'd want to head into the church and try and get a little bit of information about the missing priest himself.
Mm-hmm. And Lorenz is pretty much just happy to be a fly on the wall, not his house. So, sort of Veronica's show to run at this point.
Yeah, so I guess at this point we would have looped around to grab my bundle that I would have stashed with my robes and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think
So we can assume that you're already frocked if you so wish. You're already ready to go.
yeah, I think so. On the way up, I think we would have talked about what we've seen in the house a little bit, like the icon that we've seen with the sun and the anti-sun, as it may be. I may have made comments to Lorenz about what she said to me on the way out. It's like, why does she think I'm going on a journey or a trip or something? That was weird. Like an old woman.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know. It's a bit. Takes all sorts in these parts.
Ain't that for sure?
She could have just been throwing it out there, you know what I mean? They should go, wow, these are some out-of-towners. They're obviously here to do something. I'll throw in a bit of value with the coin given.
Yeah, we'll give him a little bit of a portent.
A bit of a show with the meal, so to speak.
Yeah, as she is like 3 cups into her fungal tea.
I wouldn't read too much into it, eh?
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, we hear shit like that all the time back home. Street hustlers and whatnot. Let me tell you your fortune for a coin or copper. But there was that one time it was right. That was
well, even a broken clock's right twice a day, isn't it?
yeah, that's true. But I don't think we'll be finding any clocks here. Kind of looking back and forth around the people who are gathered.
Maybe just a sundial, too.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess.
Sun worshippers make sense that they'd have a sundial.
Worshippers, so sundials are probably it's quite thematic. That works for me.
In fact, there's probably one on the little raised step heading up into church. There's probably a sundial.
Yeah, absolutely, almost certainly.
Though technically a sundial's only right once a day.
Well, that's
dark the
in
other
our
half.
world. in the world where the sun is a holy being, who knows? Bringing your normal biases into my game world.
I keep wanting to make cutting comments about religion, but I'm like, no, wait, Lorenz isn't that character. It's like, this is where cutting remark about religion being another kind of mysticism. I'm like, no.
Well, I mean,
cut it out.
We could have my character kill yours, and you can re-roll, so you can kind of play that off. I'm an assassin. A knife in the back is not unforeseen.
As you're making your way up, old Frederick is he's minding his own business. He doesn't seem to think much of a portent or anything like that. He is decidedly uncomfortable on this side of the river. You can sort of see that he's not himself necessarily a man of means, but you can tell he was definitely a townsman, probably back in the old country. And the slum here is bordering on rural. It's a bit of a strange dichotomy when compared to the old town across the river. As you're making your way through the town, you can definitely see that there's more people here than there is shelter, and there's an awful lot of temporary shelter, and you sort of you wouldn't take you don't have to be a genius to sort of put 2 and 2 together and tell that with the unrest going on in the countryside, there's no doubt been a swelling in the population here in the form of refugees, which is, if anything, probably just driving more and more people towards the church because they need help. And that's evident as you make your way towards the church, where you can see like swaths of people in need, looking for sort of food and help. And the church is certainly a hive of activity. There's a lot of people around and all of that. And you compare that to the older places of worship that you've seen here, which are of the national denomination, so to speak. And sure, they have people there, but not quite to the same extent as the shiny new big one, which was definitely built for large masses. And yeah, as you're sort of arriving, this church is pretty much the highest point in the sort of slums. There's nowhere you can really be in the slums and not see a part of it. Like its spire reaches quite high, and it's quite resplendent and shiny with its new sort of gold painted sort of spire. It sort of shines off everywhere, and as you come up, you can see lines of people. They've got some sort of, I guess, a soup kitchen set up outside where they seem to be serving up broth and bread. And yeah, the place is just overrun with misery, frankly. Misery and poverty. As you arrive. So, what's your plan here? What do you want to do? Talk me through how you approach this.
I think I would maybe split off a little bit as we get closer, so they don't see us as like together, and then maybe head inside to try and find a person of the cloth, because the ones that are outside are probably a little bit too busy to pay me any attention. And just kind of go up and ask the question. So, I would probably play ignorant and say, what was his name? What was our preacher's name that we're looking for?
Hoffman.
Von Hoffman.
That's the family name.
Yeah.
Would he be a pastor, preacher, father?
Bishop.
Bishop, right, Bishop.
Victor von Hoffman. Yeah.
All these Vic V's. VVV.
Yeah, so I would go up to somebody in the inside who maybe would have been on the same level as I was, so like just like initiate level, and ask if Bishop von Hoffman was around.
This person sort of how open and warm is Veronica? Paint us a bit of a picture of Veronica. Like, how does she look in her priestly garb or whatever, or initiate garb? And like, are you a distant person? Is this a warm, like? I'm trying to picture this in my head. So why don't you paint us an image?
Because I want something, I will be warm and welcoming and very open to talk to.
Okay.
So, like, going up to the person, good day, brother, good day, sister, pleasant day we're having today. By chance, we're new in town, or sorry, I am new in town. I'm here with an envoy, or I'm here with, what was our father's name? Or our bishop? Hartman. Mathis Hartman. I am here with Bishop Hartman, and I'm trying to find the bishop of the cathedral here. What was his name? Bishop von Hoffman? Is he around?
I'm looking at your persuasion, which is pretty good. So that's not bad anyway.
Yeah.
It sort of looks at you and it's like, you can sort of looks a bit like that nervous energy when someone's coming up and they're asking you about something which is like a crisis that you've probably been quietly trying to not acknowledge. And it sort of looks over your garb. Obviously, there's slight variations in the way you're dressed, but it's close enough that they can see that you're somebody. And they sort of look around and it's like, you haven't heard? No one's seen him in weeks. He's been gone.
What do you mean?
Did a sermon and then left, went to go home and is gone. I hear his wife's fled too. It's all rather scandalous.
What would be a form of exclamation, like by the sun, by the holy rays of the sun above?
Yeah, you make it up. This is your fiction as much as mine. By
the sun, a bishop just disappearing like that, and his wife. That's That's not right. Does anybody know anything?
He just shakes his head.
You must be absolutely devastated. I'm so sorry.
I didn't really know him. He led a good sermon. I'm quite new. He sort of looks at his initiate sort of robes. He's a local boy, by the way. He's not an import like the priest was.
That's most unfortunate. I don't know what I'm going to tell my bishop when I return to him that the local bishop is missing. Has there been any information found as to what's going on? Does anybody else know anything? I mean, I know I'm new here, but I could help however possible.
He says Father Bertram might know. This is really, sort of above the initiate's head. He says, this Father Bertram's taken over since it's all gone wrong.
Was he the one to take command of the cathedral upon the bishop's departure?
Well, someone had to. So, yeah, he did. He's sort of come in and he's trying to keep us organised, and he's taken over sermons, and the flock is starting to ask questions, and he's been our guiding light.
Well, it's a blessing that somebody was there to step in and take the reins, so to speak. Where can I find this Father Bertram?
At this time of day, he would normally be preparing for the sermon, and he sort of indicates towards the back of the cathedral.
So then, right now might not be the most ideal time to present myself before him. Then, I'm thinking.
Quite possibly not. He'll be busy. You'd know from your own experience that, sort of the rising and setting of the sun are the two most important times of day, and the evening sermon's the biggest sermon of the day. So, that's be getting ready for that.
Well, thank you very much for your help. I would take his hands in mine and kind of like clasp them together and like show a sign of faith and warmth that I'm kind of here for him, and wish him well, and I will go and find a spot in the pews to be ready for the sermon.
Okay. While all that's going on, what's going on with your character, Sean?
So Lorenz is sort of trying to just look like he is. First of all, he's taking in the cathedral, because cathedrals are interesting. And he's trying to just gauge how many coming in look like they're actually here for the sermon, and how many are here to look like they're interested just because they're getting fed. He's trying to just gauge the engagement, I guess, that's going to go into the sermon from the local populace. And he's going to just park himself sort of... So I'm imagining there's quite a lot of Strasslanders, expats that come across just to go to the cathedral.
Yeah, although there isn't a hell of a lot of... there isn't that many Strasslanders here, but yeah, there would be a few. The vast majority of the people coming here are, sort of local and poorer, as far as you can tell. They look like they live in this area anyway. It's definitely like a church that serves its local populace. So, yeah, there is definitely, it is for the most part sort of locals. You can tell like it's a pretty strong contingent of people who are coming for the sermon. You can just tell because they're a bit better presented, like they've got their whole family in tow. They're sort of taking the time to present themselves to go into church. That's where they're headed. So you can tell that, but there is a lot of people which definitely have that frightened and scared look about them, where they are here solely for the food as well. And there is certainly a divide there. And some of the people who are here for the food, you might even occasionally see that weird, resigned sort of. I don't know how best to describe it, but it's something we've all seen, where someone is grateful that they're getting help, but clearly not particularly fond of the people helping them. There is an element of that, but that is
sort of
certainly
standoffishness.
Yeah, like we're here because, like, and also a bit of pride and things mixed in. You know, we're here because we need to be, not because we want to be. That sort of a thing. But there is also certainly, you can see that this church is winning over the hearts and minds of the local community. That's undeniable, and you can definitely see that elements of the refugees are also sort of falling in on it as well. I mean, the local, if you think about it, right, like local lords and government is the reason they're probably refugees in the first place, and yet here they are getting help from, sort of people abroad. And a lot of the initiates, a lot of the younger sort of staff here appear to be locals as well. So there's definitely a bit of a ground swelling, you can tell, going on.
And he's also just looking to see if there are any, like, large groupish sort of, I was going to say cliques, but you wouldn't really be able to tell just from walking into a room, but just groupings of people that are clearly there together, like large groupings of community, I guess.
Yeah, it is a bit hard to tell. You can see that there is definitely a sizable contingent of, like, the refugees, which are sort of huddled together, just out of shared misery more than anything. That said, there's like natural sort of, you can see the equivalent of community leaders. You can see the people who sort of speak on behalf of people, family heads and things like that, sort of gathering up these refugees, and the refugees seem to be forming like almost their own sort of group apart from the locals, which, quite possibly see the refugees as just crowding the area, but it's hard to, obviously, there's only so much you can tell from a look. This is just sort of you filling in the gaps, as it were. But there's definitely like a divide that way, because there's like the groups are gathering and preparing to enter the cathedral for the sermon, and you're noticing the refugees are gathering to one side and then the locals are gathering to the other, and amongst the locals is well, amongst all of the people here, you can tell there's no one of like a middle class or higher status really that you can make out. They're all sort of the mob, so to speak.
And then he's going to note just the faces of the community leaders that he spots, just in case they're useful for later. If he pops up, that he'll recognise them. But then what he's going to do is he's going to look to see if he can see anybody doing what he's doing. So he's looking for anybody that's sort of trying to keep to themselves. Perhaps they're a little hostile when people approach them. Because what Lorenz will be doing is he'll just be giving people, well, if people come up to him, he'll just say the welcoming, yes, it's good to be in Solarius' light, and, but he's looking for anyone that's sort of refusing that sense of communityness, that's perhaps just here to watch people.
Okay. Ooh, make a streetwise test.
First roll of the day. I forgot to bring my roller up. Okay.
It will be opposed.
Ooh.
Potentially. Assuming there's someone there, but I can't.
Assuming there's someone there, yeah.
I'll get your result either way. Just tell me what your result is and we'll see if it's good enough.
I got a 18.
So that's including your boost.
That's all up.
No,
Not a
you
good
can't. You can't. Nothing really stands out. There's a lot of people coming around, a lot of people moving. You've got priests there feeding people. There's also a lot of people who are sick. Like as people are arriving from out of town, they're turning up with the sort of the weariness of the road upon them, and they're being seen to. A lot of people having their feet and stuff looked after, and just generally being checked on by the staff here, and also a lot of beggars. You're being harassed almost constantly by people coming up and asking for a coin for the poor, sort of thing, that sort of stuff. There's certainly people circulating amongst this crowd, many of whom they line up, they get a meal, and then they go around looking for the wealth of others. And this is sort of where you see the locals are sort of, that's where the obvious sort of separation comes in, is that the locals aren't particularly keen on being hounded by these beggars, because they themselves have got fuck all. Right, so it's that situation where you've got the poor and the poorer, and if there's anything that sort of humanity's good at, it's looking down on others. So there's a bit of that going on. But you're definitely as someone who's coming across as observant, not specifically massively local, unrecognizably local anyway, and a bit more friendly, I guess you say, because you're being warm and nice to people. You are being asked by beggars. Do you give any of them coins or anything, or do you just sort of brush them off?
Not. He's not giving coins to all of the beggars, we'll put it that way. He's giving them to the ones that look like they could use it the most.
Okay.
Because he can probably see through the ones that are just like, they probably get a lot of coin anyway. The ones that are the best beggars. Lorenz was a beggar, so he games his game, I guess would be what it is, right?
Well, a lot of them, like, naturally, when you give someone money, they at least make a show of showing interest and talking to you and stuff. Do you talk to these people? They'll be like,
yeah.
So when they ask you, where you're from, are you telling them, or thank you, sir. What brings you here and all that sort of thing? What do you?
Just the river trade.
Yeah.
Which is what he says. Trying
a couple of them will pick up on the accent. They'll say, "Are you from abroad?"
Nah, mate, just here and there, wherever the river takes me.
Okay.
Sometimes local, sometimes not.
Okay. So there's a lot of it's feigned interest. One or two of them have some genuine interest in you. Every time you do give someone a coin, there is a noticeable uptick in the amount of people asking for a coin, and then that will die down eventually. But you sort of see these groups are going, and then eventually the doors for the sort of service are opened. Obviously, there was always one open, but they open them right up and invite crowds in, and then people start heading indoors, sort of for the late afternoon serving at that point. Although a lot of the ones who are outside, under sort of shelters, like temporary shelters, have been erected, tents and things. The sick and the sort of people still lining up for food don't necessarily go in. Do you go in? Do you wait to see what happens, or?
Lorenz would go in probably like halfway. He wouldn't be the first through the door, but he's not going to come in late. He's going to come in halfway.
In that case, when you get in there, there's barely a seat to be found. The place is full. Matter of fact, it's going to be overflowing. There's going to be people hanging around the door, and you can see there's just not enough room for everyone. And it clicks as to why the locals were sort of lingering around early, and why they were gathering in a group by the doors, because they all wanted to get in to see their audience, to see their sermon. You are unable to find a seat near Veronica, as she's sort of pre-seated, and now all around her sits strangers. But you sort of managed to find a spot where you can linger at the back and sort of watch what's going on. Not long after, once everybody is in, there is a sort of a hymn that is sung by everybody as like an opening, and then Father Bertram comes out, and he gives a sermon, and it is a perfectly fine and normal sermon that you've seen. But It's delivered very much the way you'd expect any regular Sunday sermon in our own world to be delivered. It's not one full of fire and brimstone. It is not one which is particularly inspiring or anything like that. It's more about encouraging people to sort of keep calm and carry on. It's really sort of trying to be a bit of balm for misery. As you observe the crowd, especially you towards the back, Lorenz, you can see the people hovering by the door. A few of them leave halfway through. They're expecting something a bit more. They're definitely, people are sort of, it's like people have gone to see a quiet Sunday pastor, but what they was expecting was a full-on evangelical super church sort of thing, right? Like what they're getting and what they're there for don't seem to be lining up. And saying that, there is certainly a strong contingent of the faithful towards the front, who are sort of getting into it. There is definitely a tone of a slight tone of expecting better, expect Solarius to provide and all that sort of a thing. There is a talk of things to come, as in things will get better, it will get brighter, and all of that. The sermon is sort of, he's saying the right thing, he's just not necessarily hitting all the beats.
He doesn't seem like he's that practiced.
He seems perfectly suitable for back home, but you've heard, about this von Hoffman guy, and you knew he was a firebrand. There's a reason he's been successful here. And you can tell this isn't von Hoffman. This isn't why people are here.
This is the softer side of the Solarian church, and they're not exactly... That's not what they're used to. They're used to, like, that, as you say, the proselytizing...
Yes.
Energized Absolutely. Service.
And you can tell, looking at the priest, he could probably give that. He has that sort of hard-edged, keen-eyed look about him. But, and he's certainly not an uncharismatic man, but you get the impression that he's trying to play it safe, which is unsurprising, given the tension that you've all felt around the city. And obviously, I think about, what happened to the last guy that was in here stirring the pot. Where's he gone? I will say that Veronica, having had a bit of religious background herself, everything he says lines up exactly with your understanding of the church. There's nothing that stands out as wrong. He is not saying anything or talking about anything that's different. This is definitely, you can tell by his accent, he's a Strasslander. It's all exactly what you'd expect at home. There's nothing that really jumps out as off here, apart from the lack of, the father that would normally be here. And people, even though they are poor, when it comes time to give to the church, people are giving. They are giving what little they can, and initiates are going around and collecting coins and donations and things like that, under the pretense of helping your fellow man that is coming into the city in their time of need to escape the hardships of the countryside. And people are giving, seemingly because they're expected to. A lot of the people who are giving are the same people who are telling the beggars to piss off outside. So this is sort of their way of helping. We give it to someone who can be trusted to look after them, that sort of a thing. There's a lot of that going on. And this service goes for quite some time. Now, there is a quirk of design to all these churches that they have a large window. It's a lead light window that's made up of fierce reds, oranges, and yellows, which points towards the west. And as the sun makes its way down, it shines through this window, and the whole room is resplendent in bright, vibrant colours of this large sort of lead light window of a sun, basically, illuminating everyone in Solarius's glow towards the peak of the sermon. And that's definitely sort of goes on. So it is it's one of those things where when you're sitting there, because they're quite well designed, these buildings, this is something which, is the goal of all of the ones back home as well. But not all of them quite achieve it the way this one has. even if you're in there and you're not particularly faithful, and you don't necessarily believe in Solarius, when someone's sitting there talking about his warmth and love, and you're literally feeling the sun shine through and everything is ablaze in colours and all this, it has that effect on you of like, maybe there is something to this. You know, like it's a good sort of design. It's a thing that sort of works, and you can see people sort of, you know, their eyes light up as this happens, and the whole design of the church is made for this moment as the sun sets. There is a similar.
Cynically, that's probably when they're all going around with the collection plates, right?
Absolutely, yes. as the light starts to diminish in that sun, and it starts getting darker, the collection plates are out, and people are walking around and all that sort of a thing, and songs are starting, hymns sort of are breaking out amongst the audience and things like that. So it's definitely like it's been a good sort of sermon, but it's nothing firebrand. It's nothing, so no calls to action apart from giving to your fellow man or anything like that. It's a safe sermon, but yeah, one that is comforting, and you can see that these people are certainly appreciating the comfort as it gets dark outside. Naturally, groups start to break up. The place starts to slowly filter out. People are lingering. This is an important social moment for the community, and you can see that. So you've got a pretty good catchment of the local community here. And you could probably find each other amongst the audience should you so wish. So yeah, I hand it over to you. What are we all doing?
I would look around to find brain blank. How's your character? No, you.
Oh, Lorenz.
Yeah.
Lorenz.
You see, everyone else has their character names on their Zoom, but no. Sean's gonna be different.
I mean, just trying to train you up.
Even the false Matt K could change your name if he so wanted to.
Yeah, nah.
You're on your fucking own. I would look around for Lorenz to see if I could find him in the crowd anywhere, because I didn't see him come in at all. And if I do, I would kind of just let our gaze linger for a second, kind of nod, and then turn back towards the front of the church itself, looking for Bertram to kind of get into his orbit at this point, because I would be assuming that there would be other people who would be coming up to him, shaking his hand, thanking him, asking for a quick blessing or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how this stuff really works. And
just make it up.
Yeah, I would just kind of be on the outside of that group, just listening and taking it all in, not trying to interpose or interject myself at this point, just being there on the off chance that he will briefly see me in passing and then recognize my face later.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's easy to do. There's a lot of community leaders who are wanting to talk to him. The prevalent issue is the refugees. The locals are asking, like, these people keep coming, they keep, so we don't have much, and what little we have is already spread thin. Is it, must we keep opening our doors to them? And it becomes obvious that Bertram is trying to set up a system where local families are taking in a refugee family. And that's his solution to shelter. And he's relying a lot on this idea of joint community. We're all one under Solarius's light. We're all the same. The church is taking in many, but we can't take them all in. The local leaders are resistant to this, but he keeps sort of reminding them of their duty as people under the warm light of the sun, sort of thing. And like Solarius keeps people warm and dry, they must do their bit to assist and all that sort of a thing. And that's getting mixed reactions from the locals, but no one seems to want to directly challenge him on that. There's also a lot of concerns around what if the refugees bring an illness with them, in which case the cleansing light of Solarius will keep us healthy. And let's not worry about such things. That's not why we are we are here, trust in Solarius, so on and so forth. And there also amongst that conversation, there is questions around why there is no Lunarian sort of church set up of the true faith, they keep saying. And he's like, well, for now, we'll have to rely on the local Lunarian churches. We are working on bringing over sisters from abroad. There's all that sort of a talk, right, like of this whole thing. But you can see people, when they're told to be making use of both faiths as needed, because the Lunarian church acts as a hospital in many ways, people are sort of like uncomfortable with this. Most Solarian churches will have a shrine to the sister faith, but it's not quite the same. So there's a lot of queries and questions around that, and you can see people are confused by this transitional period. They're told that our faith is real, not the other one, but then they're told, but if you're sick, you go to the other one because we ain't got you. And you can see that this is, there's a bit of clever wordplay and justifications relying heavily on the flexibility that is faith to get people through that conflict. But that conversation seems to go on for a while, and you get the impression that Bertram is very much answering the same question over and over around all of that. At one point, you do hear someone say, is it true what we've heard about Hoffman and his wife running off together? And Bertram's like, oh, no. Hoffman would never leave you all. He's just on a sabbatical. He's going on a pilgrimage to go and find out, go find Solarius' light or whatever. He's clearly got this rehearsed answer, which he just kicks into. As soon as there's rumors going around that he's just like, no, this is what's happening. What is your... There's no read people skill in this game, is there?
Appraise.
Appraise? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I know because I made sure I took it.
Veronica's appraise is terrible. So you don't pick up how much of what he's saying is true or not, and how much of it he believes at all. Yes, it sounds convincing to you.
I mean, it could also be career skill spy if you want it to be.
Yeah.
I talked to Ibram about this, and he says that use career skills as much as you can because it really is useful. So
yeah, Charlotte's career skills are no use, not much help in this case. So, yeah. That's where we're at. That's
I guess the appraise itself is kind of misleading because you don't think of it to be being used in a sense that it will be in this case. When you think of appraise, I have this golden apple. What is this golden apple worth?
That's half of it.
Yeah, that's
like pretty much appraises insight.
One, right?
Yeah, I know. It's appraising because you can appraise a person and you can appraise an item. And in modern parlance, you don't really talk about appraising someone unless you're some weirdo linguistically like me who would probably pop appraise out when talking.
Before doing a horrible fucking pun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point of language, right?
Spot would be a little bit more in line with that kind of stuff.
Spot's sort of like seeing a thing out of the ordinary as opposed to trying to figure out if someone's lying. I mean, I know you could make the joke spot a lie, but it's the way that the system's written.
Yeah.
Appraise is the one that does the double duty, not spot.
So yeah, anyway, that's what's going on. That's after you've lingered around for a while as the church starts to empty out. Whilst Veronica's doing that, what is Lorenz doing?
So Lorenz has seen those that left early because they were expecting something a little more impactful, high energy. So seeing that, he's going to look for a grouping that looks like they stayed for the whole thing, like they're still here, but they look like they were suffering through it, right? Like that look of, this isn't really what we want, but yeah, we'll be here for this. Because he wants to go talk to them because they may have an opinion on the difference in sermon style, and they probably preferred Hoffman's, and he just wants to have a little chat. You know, like, I'm new to the community. Hi, nice to meet you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you hear them out. One minute. You hear, there's a bunch of people sort of lingering outside. So part of the Solarian faith, obviously, it all focuses around light. There is this belief that dark is inherently evil and that you need to have lots of lights lit and things like that. So by the time the sun sets, the whole church is ablaze with candles and lanterns and things. It's very bright in here. And they're all sort of set with, you know how like theatre lights have like brass fittings around them that give it like a warm glow? There's lots of that going on all through this place. There's candles and sort of like lanterns and things set up with yellow hued glass, and there's brass or copper backings behind most of the lights that sort of shimmer around like a warm yellow glow and things like that.
Actually, I imagine that's probably a really communal thing. There's probably like a candle lighting ceremony after, like,
and it's also traditionally it's a changeover to the Lunarians that sort of step up and fulfill that role. There's no Lunarians really here, so the initiates are pulling double duty. They're getting children to help them with some of the candles and lights and things. It is very communal. And outside, this is true too, with lanterns spread out around the church grounds. Also putting a pretty big, like, these places at nighttime, they are vibrant, they are full of light. And as a result of all this light, long shadows as well. So there is certainly, like a lot of that going on. Outside, because there's so much light, and it's still like the sun, there's still a wee bit of a glow going on, like we're sort of in the late twilight. There are groups sort of gathering, and there's still food and stuff available for the people who need it because they just can't get through them fast enough. So there's groups gathering outside, and you can see one of these groups gathering nearby, that you recognize as one of the groups that had been sort of pushing through. They were sitting at the back, like they were those sorts of, there's people who always want to sit at the back of the bus, those people who just sort of want to keep to themselves, and there's a group of them, and you notice that they're not really families as much as they are sort of, they're adults for the most part, some older teens, things like that, but they weren't like the family going to church. It was a group of people who went to see a sermon together. They're lingering around. There's a big guy amongst them, a mountain of a man with a big beard and sort of quite bushy hair, and he seems to be sort of addressing them all, sort of talking amongst them, and there's pretty urgent conversation going on between them all.
Yeah, he's gonna sort of nonchalantly walk up, in that way people that are just like a bit clueless do. They're just walking and they sort of just find themselves in a group. That's the way he's going to like approach and get into this group.
As you approach, they see you coming. One of them sort of sees you, and then they do that thing where you slap someone with the back of your hand, like it's supposedly non-committally, but because you're probably looking for that sort of a thing, you see it, and the conversation hushes, and they all look up at you. And the big guy, who stands sort of half a foot taller than the rest of them, sort of nods, and he says, "Welcome, brother. Good service."
Yeah, wasn't what I was expecting, to be honest, but standard stuff, really. All good for the soul.
This is an honest question for you about your character. Is Lorenzo's Straslandian accent authentic, or is it a put on one?
It's, put it this way, he chooses what accent he has at any given time.
Okay.
And whether it's this one's probably his real one, the one that he doesn't have to put much effort into, but if he wanted to, he could class it up if he really wanted to. But he doesn't know the reason why he's using a Strasslander accent and he's using his from the streets one really is because he hasn't been to Svelsing before, so he hasn't listened to enough voices to put on a Svelsing accent convincingly, so he's not trying to. And so he's just trying to do the, use a voice that, even though he's a foreigner, it doesn't sound like an authoritative Strasslander accent that they might expect to hear from, people talking down to them all the time. You know how they'd have that voice that in their head there's the, well practiced. It's the RP, right? He's not using the RP dialect by choice. So yeah, this is his actual one, but he puts on a lot of accents usually.
Okay. And you were saying not what I was hoping for.
Yeah, pretty much. Not what I was expecting.
Yeah, this guy looks at you with pretty steely eyes, right? Which sort of emerge above his, a lot of quite dark, big, bushy beard and moustache. And he nods. He's like, "Hi, you're Mr. Bishop."
Oh, is that not? I thought that was Hoffman.
One of the other ones
that might explain a couple of things.
One of the other ones turns around and he goes, "Where are you from? Who are you?"
Oh, I'm from down the river. Came in on the boats. If you could say I'm a bit fresh off the boat. Yeah, heard there's some opportunities this way with the trade and whatnot. But don't know if I'll stick around if it's like this. I was hoping for something different from back home.
There's a pregnant pause. As they also just look at you, and then all of them seem to look back at the big man. And he's like, "Well, that's unfortunate. Sorry to disappoint you."
Well, it's not so much being disappointed with you lot. You seem to have the spirit Solarius requires of you. Just, out here with everything that I see going on upriver, I was sort of expecting a little more food for the soul. Seemed a little similar to what I saw back home, and I don't know.
Make a charlatan roll.
Hey. Ooh, career skill. $30, 19 plus 11.
They're clearly guarded. They're clearly guarded.
Yep.
Like they are, but they're not brushing you off completely. But they're clearly thinking you're not one of us. That's obvious. The way they stand is exclusive. Like they are definitely not warm and welcoming. And there's like a nod in the big one. This is like, well, hopefully the bishop will return soon. And his eyes, a touch of. If you had to describe something about this guy, it's composed. It's if you need to use, like let's say there's 3 words you need to describe this guy. You'd use composed, charismatically intimidating, 2 words but 1 title, but also seething. You know what I mean? Like he is really well held together. He is talking to you openly. He's clearly people are drawn to this man. And when he mentions the bishop coming back, there is certainly a rage behind his words that he is trying very hard to conceal.
And Lorenz probably goes, Yeah, I think it would be a good thing if he came back. Seems like it's what community's sort of got a hole in it right now. That's what it seems just from being in the watching the service. Seems as like there's a bit of a missing limb from the community, you know. I could feel an absence there. And he's just seeing how this guy reacts to that.
He nods as you're talking. He's nodding as you're talking. And goes, yes, it's important that we all remember his messages. And he sort of looks around his group, which all nod at that.
Oh. What are you like saying?
He closes up at that straight away. And it's like, Solarius wants a better world for us all. And this leaves it at that.
Well, I'm going to be heading back across town. So, you know, might be seeing you guys again.
When you say back across town, are you nodding to, because I saw you nod in the video feed, are you nodding towards the bridge and towards Old Town across the river?
I'm nodding towards the docks.
Okay.
As I said, I came up on, like, I did say I've come up on the boats.
Okay.
And there probably isn't a dock on this side of town, so.
Alright. Okay, so, yeah.
He's happy for people to know that he's will be going back across the bridge. He's actually kind of wanting to drop these hints.
Yeah.
In case these guys are like, oh.
They just look at you and like nod, and they're trying not, they're without telling you to piss off, their body language is sort of not inviting you in at all, you know.
Yeah.
But they are entertaining you is basically the idea. Like they're entertaining the idea that you'll come and talk to them, but they clearly, you can tell by looking at them, they all have the same background, the same dress. You can tell this is probably a pretty tight group. Quite possibly know each other most of their lives. They're all about the same age.
And he's just gonna sort of have that sigh of that thoughtful sigh people get. And he's gonna look back up at the cathedral. He's just gonna sort of under his breath to himself, sort of like a stage whisper, I guess. He's gonna be like, I wonder if anybody knows what happened. And then shake his head in pity and put his hands in his pockets and sort of brace himself into the night and slowly start walking away.
Once you're a distance away that it would see it, that the average person who wasn't paying attention wouldn't notice them anymore, the group heads off in a hurry. Like they've clearly just been waiting for you to leave before heading elsewhere. Charlotte with Veronica. She's been lingering for a while. What's your plan after that?
As the crowd that's around him starts to break up and he starts to make moves to head back to his office, which I'm assuming he has, I would try and catch up to him, call him, ask if he has a few moments to spare, if we can talk in private, trying to get him alone.
Yeah, he sort of looks you up and down, and there's a moment of sort of confusion on his face as you can see he's trying to place you, because you're dressed like an initiate. He's like, where do I know that? Do I know this person? Where are they from? And he's like, of course, sister. And he leads you aside. You can still see he's trying to place the face. He leads you off to sort of like a nook somewhere off to the side, underneath a pretty impressive light with a big resplendent sun on it. And he's like, what do you need?
I wish I could have some of your time to talk about Bishop von Hoffman. I know that came up a few times with some of the members of your church, but I have come with Bishop Hartman on behest of our Lord back home to look into this matter. I am attached to the Bishop Hartman service to look into this. I do request some of your cooperation in trying to figure out what's going on. Any information that you may be able to provide would be beneficial to our investigations.
He sort of, when you start saying all of this, he looks around, it's like making sure no one's around, and he just grabs you by the shoulder as you're talking and leads you to a small office, like an actual away from everyone, and closes the door. And he sits down across the desk, and he's like, please be comfortable. And as you finish saying everything you just said, you see him pull out a bottle of doesn't make sense if there's no sacrifice that they have communion wine, so we'll just say wine. He pulls out a bottle of wine and pours himself a very generous glass, doesn't offer you one, and just drinks it. And then
Is his hand shaken when he does the pour? Is it like
a wee bit,
Yeah, jingling against the glass.
And he was like, sure, yes, any way that I can help, I will. And he's clearly stressed.
Well, take a minute, calm yourself, finish your drink. You had a successful sermon. It takes a lot out of you. You need to recuperate your resolve. When you're ready, tell me whatever you can about what has happened.
You can see he's weighing up various things. He's like, "You sure you're here with the bishop? How do I know? How do I know who you are?"
An imperial sigil of the Holy Aquila is a fucking tattoo.
No, you have a Oh, hold on. I think who has the writ? One of you does have the writ. I think it was Short.
Was it Sean
Yeah.
or was it Victor?
one of us had it?
Might have been me. I'm not. I think I showed it to someone at some point. So
I think you've
You
showed
did.
it to someone.
Well, in that case,
And Lorenz wouldn't have gone across the bridge with the writ.
yeah,
Do
no.
I have pickpocketing and I could have snagged it from a previous time?
I tell you what,
you
look,
just fucking try it.
Spend five
Make it-
stress and get a wait, wrong system.
spend the point of luck and you can have the writ. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds
Sure.
Okay.
So that brings me down to 8 luck.
Cool. So you happen to have the writ, which you can show him. Do you do so?
Yeah, I would pull it out of my robes and hand it over to him to take a look at.
The writ has a number of seals on it. It has the seal of the Archduke. It has the seal of the Kaiser, and it has the seal of the Bishop on it. And he reads it, and you can see he's a bit relaxed. And he's like, "Well, what do you want? Do you want the?" He is a very different person in private than he was, sort of in the pulpit. It's like, well, what do you?
Well, we've been to his house. We've seen what happened there. We didn't find any real signs of struggle, but the house was flipped. And we heard tale of someone else being there flipping that house who was a bit of a questionable sort.
As you say that, he sinks in his seat, and you can tell this man is agitated and terrified, right? Like he's clearly not feeling particularly secure considering what happened to his predecessor. And he's like, he drops his voice, even though you're in like a small room, there's no, and big thick door, chances are no one could hear you, but he still drops his voice and he's like, "You want my opinion? That bastard, Ivan, he fucking did this."
Ivan.
The Grand Prince, the ruler of all of Svelsing.
What makes you say that?
Well, Hoffman the firebrand that he was. And he was a brilliant man, and people loved him, and he was very successful. But he started... He just didn't know his place. He didn't understand that society's got an order for a reason, and that people exist and have what they have because, certain people don't want them to have more, right? And he was agitating. You don't come to the arsehole of the world and agitate.
Yeah, but he's been here for decades. Why now?
I don't know. When we came here, the two of us came here together, him and I, and when we arrived, it was great. We'd just missionaries. We're just here to spread the word and plant roots in the new land. And then he got really into this holy stuff. Don't get me wrong, these robes, the station in life, it's nice, but it's... Look, yeah, I mean, you don't believe this, do you?
Of course I do. The light shines upon all of us.
Yeah, praise be. He drinks more wine.
I would kind of wink a little bit at the same time, kind of saying one thing but meaning something else for anyone else who's listening outside the door with a cup to it.
He puts a glass in front of you and starts filling it and goes, I don't trust teetoters.
You don't trust what, sorry?
Teetoters. People who don't drink.
That's a new phrase for me.
Look, imbibe with me. And he drinks more.
Yeah, I would take it. It's from the same bottle that he poured from?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, so I would kind of raise it up in a bit of a toast and kind of take a little bit, like swish around my mouth a little bit, get the full body of the wine, make sure it doesn't taste like almonds or, yeah. Using my medicine, which is not insignificant, to make sure it's not poisoned.
Mm-hmm. No, it's definitely not poisoned.
And yeah, I would kind of drink that while he continues talking.
He's like, look, he's been agitating for the last year or so, giving people thoughts above their station, winding them all up. It was good. It spread the word. It gave us the funding for this church. It gave us funding for our lifestyle. But then, I don't know, he believed it, Believed it. And started, that's, our job, the job of us, and he's indicating to you, we're here to keep the masses calm. We're here to keep them peaceful. We're here to stop them causing trouble. War is not nice. The reason we have refugees, the suffering that has been inflicted by that belief that he was spreading around, we don't need that. That's not why we're here. Even if
too true,
this place is shit and these people suffer, it doesn't matter. That's not what we're here for. We're here to give them a wee bit of hope, not make them throw it all away.
Yeah. But by giving somebody hope, you have to make sure they see the benefits of that as well, or else all hope is lost if nothing is gained from it. Was he providing for them?
Yeah, the reason...
Or just inflaming their minds?
No, the reason we feed people is because of him. The reason that so many people come to us when they need something is because of him. The reason that people are rising up in the countryside is because of him. Of course the prince didn't want him around. Would you? You have a whole land, people paying tithes to you, a land that's historically been divided. There's an uneasy peace. And then some noble prick comes from across the mountains and starts stirring up your peasants. I'm surprised they haven't burnt down this whole building. At least his thugs aren't hanging around during sermons anymore. Took a week to calm them down.
His thugs?
The Red Company. You've seen them around.
Ah, yes, I believe so. So they were answering directly to him?
No, no, that's they're the prince's thugs. The Reds,
Oh, God.
they were here providing security once our priest went missing. Making sure that the rest of us were safe while they lingered and watched.
Was kind of them.
Yeah.
So now what about his wife? Because she is missing as well.
Well, probably went the same place he did.
Did anything start to shift with her in the last year? Was she a public figure at his side, or did she stay at home?
Normally, those of us who are raised within the cloth don't have wives. But because he was invited into the fold, so to speak, she came with. But to be honest, I haven't spoken to her in about a year or so.
I see. Since my appraise is shit, does he feel like, is there any sense of deceit that's coming off of him?
No, if anything, he seems relieved to be able to be honest after a few hours of sitting there and behaving.
Right. And I'm sure the alcohol itself was kind of loosening his tongue a little bit.
So you have the impression this isn't his first drink of the day either.
So I would take a risk and let him know what we found on the roof of her chambers, like the symbol. Like I would rudely or rudimentarily scrawl it down on a piece of paper, saying, "We found this in their residence. Does this mean anything to you?"
He picks up the piece of paper and looks at it and shrugs and goes, "I don't know. Maybe she was going a bit local." And he burns the paper in a candle. He goes, "Can't have heresy in the church."
So is this something that is a local take on our faith?
I don't really know what these animals were worshipping before we came.
But kind of rankle at that a little bit, and you come here to try to minister to them, and then you use a term like that for them. They're all people here, just like us.
We can help them find the light. Until then, we're here to keep them calm. We are shepherds. That's it. Shepherds have flocks. Flocks, well...
Right. So, the last question. Back to Ivan. Does he have somebody that does his dirty work for him?
Yeah, he's a whole...
Like his right-hand man?
He sort of thinks and goes, Have you ever had a migraine? He's rubbing his forehead. It's like been having them since this started. I don't know, whoever leads those red men, I'm sure he has advisors and all sorts as well. I mean, look, Hoffman was the one who was looking into politics, and he sort of looks back at the candle and goes, maybe if the wife was going local, maybe she turned him in. Oh, it is rather scandalous. He sort of has another drink of wine. It's like, no, I don't know. Look, if anything, Hoffman is a lesson in why the less you know, the safer you are, is a thing. And I am quite happy to sit here in ignorance, keep the masses calm, keep the money flowing back to the church, do my job.
Well, unfortunately, information and knowledge is my trade, so I will leave you. I will let you stay here in your relative safety, and I will not bother you anymore. I will let the bishop know that you have been of help, and he may deign it wise to come and pay a visit in the next few days while we're here. But thank you for your time.
Yeah. When you say the bishop's going to come pay a visit, he sort of rolls his eyes a bit and sort of sits forward. He's a man who's very tired. You can tell this. He's a bit stressed and tired. And, I mean, can you blame him? You know, given everything that's going on, he's someone who seems to be floundering a bit over his head. But no, he lets you go.
Lets me go.
Is your plan then to go find Lorenz? Because this would all time up.
Yeah.
So Lorenz is sort of, you might wander out to the front and you can see Lorenz sort of making his way on his own across the front of the church at this point, having just finished up his own conversation.
Well, anything good?
Not particularly. Just seems that Hoffman was a different kind of preacher to Bertram.
Yeah,
and he's missed.
I was getting the same feeling from the good father, but depending on who you ask around here, it might sound like he's not as missed.
Right. Well, at least on this side of the river, he's pretty missed.
Yeah, the prince's name was dropped as a potential.
Well, like I said, haven't been able to rule that side of things out at all.
No, something like this, you have to have means, and the people around here don't have that.
They have a lot of anger, though.
They do, but not directed at the bishop.
Doesn't seem that way, at least not at first blush.
No. I don't know, maybe we head back and rally up with the other two and see what they have come up with.
Even though it doesn't look like it came from inside his house. And
No.
Lorenz sort of motions towards the cathedral. He doesn't mean it didn't come from inside his other house. He points back across the river with his head.
When you do point up at the cathedral, that big lead light window I mentioned before, with all the light coming from inside the church, looks just as glorious outside. You know, as it's now quite dark, but this big shimmering red, orange, sort of sun shining off the front of the church.
Right, now where's Frederick? Let's best get back off to the other side of town.
Yeah, sun is set and we need to make some decent time.
So, you make your way back towards the bridge. As it's dark, you actually don't feel super safe walking through the slums, but no one seems to accost you. Everything seems to be more or less peaceful for now, but there is an element of, if there ever was a place that could be dangerous, it could be here, this moment. However, the church service does seem to have, instilled some peace, and there is still the occasional crowd that is making its way back, and families are making their way back to homes and things. And you find yourself back at the bridge where a lot of the beggars have gathered around the bridge. And there is, as I said earlier, people trying to get across the bridge. There is a queue to get back over. They are slowly working through everyone. There is a toll, there is a queue, and you join the back of this queue, the back of this line, and there are people around you harassing you for coins. One stands out in that there is a guy who has clearly set up his lone little posse on the side of the bridge. He's got blankets down that look like they probably haven't moved in weeks. He's got like a bit of a shelter built with a bit of wood. And he clearly, once the bridge would have closed up at whatever point it did, he just got himself set up and has been sitting here and not moved, and has been panhandling ever since. He has that, that element of it being a piece of the landscape. And he sort of sits there and raises a cup and goes, he wants to spare an arms for the poor.
Yeah. So, trying to remember, if you were to wanting to go west out of town, this is the only bridge you can go across, correct?
You're currently going east back across it. If you're leaving town, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Because the nearest crossing outside of town would be how far away?
I mean, if you had a boat, you could go anywhere, but one of the towns you passed through like a couple of days ago by river had a ferry crossing.
Okay. Yeah, Lorenzo put a copper in his cuppa.
Thank you, sir.
It's like,
thank you. Awfully kind.
Yeah, I would have followed suit.
You look like a bit of a resident on the bridge, mate.
Yeah. It's the prevailing northerly wind, I get to sit against this wall here and I stay nice and warm. Plus plenty of...
So you must see all sorts of comings and goings.
Oh, ain't nothing get past me.
Indeed. You happen to see anything a bit odd? How long ago did Hoffman go disappearing? Like, what was the night? Like, in terms of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's about 3 weeks ago. We'll assume you have a date. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm imagining beggars don't exactly keep track of time.
Not the way we do, no.
No. So he's going to go several weeks back, like, someone, a group of people or anything, leaving, trying to get out of town in a bit of a hurry. Back before the bridge was closed.
Oof. Oh. A lot of people what walk past here. I
put another copper in the cup.
Yeah, no. No, I mean, people come and going all hours, but there's more people trying to get in than out.
Right. Well, so it should be a little bit easy to remember people getting out. What about, you got a pretty good view of the river here. Any unusual departures in the middle of the night back in?
Nah. No. I did see something that day, though, but I can't quite... It's not what you're looking for. It's not what you're talking about. It's a bit different, but, like, for the life of me... And his little cup rattles.
Rattles a bit. I put another copper in.
Yeah, nah, still not remembering.
Am I close enough to overhear this?
He takes out a silver's worth of coppers. He doesn't take out a silver. He takes out a silver worth of coppers and puts that in his tin.
And he looks in and he smiles. He takes his hat off, he pours the coppers in, and then he carefully puts the hat back on. And he goes, yeah. Look, no one, the only one who's come down and spoken to me about this is old Carl. But, that priest, what everyone's looking for?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know him.
Yeah, well, I may be seeing what happened to him.
And?
Oh, yeah, I may be seeing it, that's all I'm saying. But that's dangerous information. That can get a man killed. This sort of thing, which if I was to share that information around, I'd probably have to uproot, move, make a new life for myself somewhere. Maybe get my own little shack.
Lorenz is narrowing his eyes and he's trying to appraise whether he's whether he's being sold a lemon at this point.
Do a roll, go on, chuck us a roll. Throw a dice.
Chuck us a roll, mate.
Chuck a D20
Throw
down,
a dice
boy.
or two. Chuck a D20. Would this be a praise,
Yes,
or
praise.
big, or
a praise?
Righto. Oh, yeah, it's another one of my 12s. 28. 16 plus 12.
Yeah, there seems to be some authenticity to what he's saying.
What would be an unusual, like, he's wanting essentially to have enough to go in and get a hovel. What would be, in an economy like this?
It's not necessarily even
What would
money.
be
It's like he's right. There is an element of risk to being a witness to that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's the sort of thing where if you were to sort of maybe make him some sort of other offer, it's not just necessarily financial reimbursement. It would occur to you. That's what he's looking for.
I'm gonna sort of look to Veronica and make the head tilt to bring her over here.
I would get closer and toss a coin in his cup.
Now, a good sister is and good with the church. You want a place to stay, proper, for a while. I'm sure Veronica can leave a little note, give you a little note with a name on it, get you in the good graces of the church, like. Get you off the street for a bit.
He sort of looks down the bridge a bit towards the checkpoint. He goes, I'm not sure the church is the safest place.
Well, have you got an offer?
He sort of stands up and he brushes himself off and sort of looks around a bit. He goes, got any gold in them pockets? That's enough for someone like me to vanish for a while.
In this climate, gold's a bit of a risk to carry around.
Well, he sort of takes his hat off, which is full of coppers, and jingles it.
Lorenzo's going to take out... I'm trying to think, would he have gold on him? He definitely has silver on him. He's going to decide... He probably has one or two hidden in his shoe or something. It wouldn't make sense for him not to have it as a desperate thing. And he takes off his shoe. That's caked in mud from the slum. Pulls out. He's keeping it hidden from the ambient light in the street. He takes out a gold coin. He doesn't put it in the hat. He just takes it out of his shoe and puts his shoe back on. He says, well, I'm listening.
Yeah, he takes the coin. That coin doesn't go in the hat. That coin goes down his pants. All right? And then he quickly gathers up his bits and...
Ain't seen that coin again.
He quickly gathers up his bits and pieces, and he sort of nods down the bridge before making he sort of turns his back to it, so anyone on the bridge, he's talking past you, right? So he does that thing where he sort of looks down the bridge, nods without saying anything, then turns his back to it and sort of makes a show of looking away, across the river or something. So he's talking without looking directly at you. And he's like, you see that big bastard? Him and his boys. They took him away. And he ain't been back since.
Took him out west by boat or across the bridge?
Across the bridge. Sack on his head
Carry out west, past out of town?
Sorry. I misspoke. East, across the bridge, as in into town.
East across the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, into town. Right. On, how'd they go? Just on foot?
Yeah. Just escorted them. Quite
Lorenz shares a look with Veronica.
So anyway, I must be going.
Well, I can think of one way of making this not look like you've had a big long chat to us. May hurt a little. And he's sort of looking at him like permission,
He just sort of keeps walking, going, "Nah, mate, I ain't falling for that one." The big guy he was indicating on the bridge was the fellow who questioned you last time.
There's a fella that, yeah. Lorenz looks at Veronica and is like, well, here's something.
Oh yeah, friends of yours?
Was there any mockingness in that? in
No.
the way you said that? No.
Nope.
But everyone on the street's a friend to me. If you got coin.
Well, keep spending them like that, you won't have coin for much longer. I hope this
What an
pans out.
That's what an expense accounts for.
True.
You just gotta look like you're not willing to part with it. Makes them sell it more.
The things I can learn from you.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
So what now? We follow these ones across?
I don't think we've got anything else we need to do on the western side of town, do we?
I don't think so. I think we're pretty much finished.
Yeah. See how painful it is going back across compared to coming in.
How many people does it look like the big fella has with him?
A few. Not a hell of a lot. There's only a couple of the ones in the red sashes. Most of them seem to be sort of local authorities and things. But it's mostly... And it does appear that there's more of them now that it's dark than there was during the day. They just seem to be questioning everyone who's coming in, charging a toll, things like that. The toll is high enough to price out most of the people who live on this side of the river as well.
I mean, I'm good to go across. I don't know, Veronica.
Yeah, same.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you make your way across. There is heavy questioning and stuff like that as you make your way through. And then you head back towards Strussland House, where we've cut now. And sitting at a table over a plate of rather fine food, we have Maynard talking with Victor. So, old boy, what do you think's going on here? We think we need to... Do you think the wife's, what, an affair? On the run? Why?
There's clearly something about this religion stuff seems to be all mucked up.
It's a bit wet flannel though, isn't it? What's that got to do with...
Well, the religion might have led her astray into the hands of some, well, Eastern noble who has a little bit more flair and style than, let's say, this rather unctuous little bishop. And we might have some sort of affair going on. I'm not against that idea. Could be likely.
That would, You see, he's not happy with the idea of an affair. You can see he's weighing that up in his mind. Not so much in the idea of partaking in one, but he's clearly thinking things up, weighing things up.
I think it's out of the question, Maynard. Your kind intermingling with these Eastern folk.
Well, there's a lot more weight to a marriage once you get up to a certain strata of society. There's a lot more to lose if you were to, succumb to infidelity. But he just shrugs. Not that I've ever worried about that. And what about this Albrecht, this missing servant? I think we should look into that.
I think we should, considering the fact that he's been gone for exactly the amount of time required. we should be able to find him if we ask around. And he will definitely know something. Might not know the answer, but he will definitely know. As I said, even the serving girl knew something. An older servant will know much more.
Yeah. He sort of thinks, he goes into contemplation while he's chewing on his meal. So, slight change of subject there, old boy. I heard that you were at Grindengelt.
I was.
I hear that was quite a nasty one.
Well, there's no such thing as a nice one. But yes, it was a particularly nasty one. We lost a lot of men. And they lost more.
That's always rather the goal, I suppose.
Yes.
Did you... What? The whole fortunate few frontline thing. What? Why? Why do you? Is that you want the money that bad?
Well, it's partly that and partly the fame and glory. When I was young, the idea of joining a group so gallant and so great was immensely appetizing. These days, not so much. But the idea is, as you may know, that the people who fight in the front line are paid more, and we are very, very well sought after. So we're always being employed, and hopefully being employed by the winning side, so we don't have to do so much dirty work that isn't supplied by a very good odds, I'd say.
I mean, wealth is all good and well, but you're not alive to spend it. I mean...
Well, unlike some other mercenary captains, my old friend, we who come from below need to take more risks to grow stronger and more famous. And these days, the fortunate few end conflicts before they start by standing at the front line. What did you do at Leitdorf, or whatever it was called? I heard that was quite a nasty one as well. Some people say it was well and good. But you, I've heard some talk around the men, and they say that it was a disaster.
Well, disaster for who, really?
Well, for the people. Not maybe for your employers. It's all well and good. Right?
Sometimes there is more value in ending something so thoroughly that they don't want to rise up again. You see, you may do this for money and status. I've never really felt the need to want for neither. I do this because I'm good at it. And it's fun. And, well, you do what you have to do. Orders, old boy. You need to put them down so hard that they don't even think about getting back up.
Well, and Victor looks at Maynard's face and he says, well, that explains your other name. The Butcher. Lighton, right?
Lifeton.
You've ever heard that one? And I look particularly smug at saying this, because this is obviously not something you're happy with.
He sort of thinks about it and shrugs and goes, well, if it works. Butcher, lion, arsehole. I don't care what they call me as long as they know who I am, then I put them down. Look, old boy, at this point, I mean, think about it, you're fortunate few. How many good, right, honourable men have you seen dying on the ground? It's the work. At least I don't fool myself about my place in the world.
You're a fool if you say I fool myself. I know exactly the price that has been paid for my position.
And how many...
I've seen many...
Go on.
I've seen many good men die screaming on the ground for my company, as you have as... But there's nothing here to guarantee that I don't know the price. I just don't laugh it off like some... Well... I won't call you what I just wanted to call you, old chap, because I don't want to have a fight here.
Well, seems being known as the butcher's not all a bad thing. Look, old boy, you and I are no different. We just maybe view ourselves somewhat differently. It's a job. In the same way that a chimney sweep must flush out the stain of a fire, we must flush out the stain of humanity from time to time. So, yes.
Well, that's the price of our profession, isn't it? But some men take to drink to forget this. I see other people take to acceptance, but that's just the way.
I have no desire to forget any of this. I love my job. Although, it's a bit strange, don't you think? Us, you and I here, old boy. Think about it. We're here to stop a war, and they've sent two people who profit from it.
Well, I will say, it's a strange proposition, isn't it? But I think they know that we also know that there will always be work, and this work is well paid. And when this war is over, there'll be another one. There's no guarantee this will be more profitable than the next. And if I can keep my men out of fighting for a little while, it's good enough for me. Especially if we're well paid to keep the peace rather than, well, make it.
He sort of ponders for a moment and shrugs. Around about this point, Victor and Veronica arrive. And you guys can roleplay a little reunion and catch up and have a discussion about what you're going to do.
So where's Lorenz if Victor and Veronica arrive?
Fuck. Lorenz arrives.
Like, there's two of you. Oh my god.
Yes, I have a brother. No, let's not go. You're back, and you can see Victor very happy to not have to talk to me anymore. And he's like, what have you found out?
The other side of town's bloody filthy. Lorenz starts brushing off his shoes.
Smells like it.
Glad I brought bloody spare clothes for this job.
You've never been in
And
the
then he
dirt
looks
before?
at Frederick. He looks at Frederick, who's probably just very upset.
Yeah, well, Frederick probably, as soon as he got back, went off to get changed. I doubt he's hanging around.
Yeah. Lorenz just leaves his boots at the door and he just comes and sits down. Well, I'll let Veronica speak to good old Bertram, but found a fair few things out.
You useless git, just like the rest of them?
Well, I'll let Veronica speak to Bertram. But he looks to Maynard and just says, "Thanks for your drawing, it was very useful." And he takes it out and he puts it across the table. He just says, "Suppose we'll start with the big news first. Got some confirmation about the the bishop. Prince's men took him from west side of town to east that night. You know, sackcloth job. It looks like everything that happened in the house afterwards, it already got there, man.
Yeah, it may have been a diversion to throw everyone off.
Like I said, covering tracks. Now, as to the good ladies part in all this, well, remains to be seen. Could have gone off. He could be, Hoffman could be, dead in the prince's dungeon somewhere, being used as leverage. Could be, forcibly banished, could be something else. As for the good lady, no real leads on that one. Other than the fact that what she had on her ceiling was real old local stuff. That she's probably entertaining some people around town without the bishop knowing. People that probably don't take kindly to the Solarian faith being present back here in Svelsing. You got these two threads. Don't know if they link up. Could be a sheer coincidence. Could be she took the opportunity to split. Could be she's in on it. Could be she's in over her head too.
Or all of them.
Hoffman for sure. He's been grabbed by the prince's men. Those Red Company goons.
Well, I look at Maynard like, oh, it seems like we have to find their commander, have a stern talking to, huh?
Well, I don't think we want to be as overt as that, do we? Be paid to know exactly what their links to the prince are. Might be more... All I'm saying is, we go in there saber rattling against a mercenary company that's being employed by the prince, and he's behind all this. Quickest way to create something that's pretty low key right now into something bloody. Now look, the Kaiser don't want that. May come to that, may not. I get that's why you guys are here, if it comes to it. But right now, perhaps we should find out a little bit more about the links between the prince and this company.
Oh, if you want to find something out, go ahead.
Also got to keep our eyes open because there's a group that's operating out of uniform, by the looks of it. They're the ones that have actually done the dirty work.
Not surprising. Know anything about them?
I know the guy that was the guy that took Hoffman was leading that little expedition, that foray. He was the one that was on the toll bridge tonight.
Well, one of the best ways of finding someone will spill their secrets is some sort of disgraced member of that company. If we can find someone like that, they might be able to tell us something. Though, depending on what kind of company they are, that person might never talk.
Or it could be the kind of company where once you're in, you don't leave except in a river floating face down.
It's very possible.
Also, the thing about mercenaries is it's always important to know who their employer is. Remember that the client and the customer aren't always the same.
No. Them being under the direct employ of the Grand Prince is unlikely at best. There's probably some middle hand.
Or even external. You and I are both paid by another country to be in this land. He just shrugs.
Point is, it's a big open question, and I don't like open questions, especially when they're tied directly to the bloody thing.
if that priest has been nabbed by this lot, we've had him for weeks. We don't know what state he's in. I question the urgency around such a task. The wife, though, she could be important.
Well, I think at this point in time, finding them alive or dead is not as important as finding those connections to see who initiated this. Losing the bishop is a shame, but this could be lead up to something larger.
What I do know from that soiree across town is that Prince probably didn't like what he was preaching, or someone in government wouldn't have liked what he was preaching. He seemed a little too successful. I don't know what Veronica was telling me. Seemed like he's the true believer, and he was doing lots of converting.
Almost like born again.
Those bloody born again Solarians.
Born again in the light of the sun, huh?
I don't know, I'm still not ruling out that symbol on the ceiling having something to do with all this.
Like I said, 2 threads. It's better than when we started the day.
This is true.
I think we should
Real
find...
nasty stuff too, by the way, that symbol thing.
I think the easiest thing we can do now is to track down those nobles that Rita was hanging out with. And, see what they know. Or what do you think?
I think that's the one that we have the hardest time with. I mean, we can start, just ask the Lord Ambassador about what he's found out about the Red Company. They've been resident for a while. If he's worth half his salt, he's got a little dossier on them. Though I'm not sure he's been applying himself as much as he ought to have been.
I've had similar concerns. He seems to not be doing the kind of work he should be doing. Still find that suspicious.
He's got a stellar reputation, but his lethargy is a bit concerning to me.
It's almost like he's in on it. But I won't say anything like that in a public place for a while.
Lorenz looks completely askance at the mention. Like, it's one thing to call into question someone's competence, it's another to call into question their loyalty.
I've been here before. They're all playing games. Doesn't matter which side they're on. If they can profit from it, they will do whatever they can.
Kinda sounds like you and your line of work.
Maynard nods.
I think you'll find in certain circles that mercenary mindset does not exist.
You'd be surprised, my friend.
Oh, come on. Everybody has a place.
You're discussing politics, boy. Money is... mercenary mindset is the reason... Who do you think hires mercenaries?
It's all to do with what job needs to be done. Some of us are wedded to the job, not the coin.
I'm sure. I'm sure that is true, Lorenz. But there's not a lot of people like that in this world, and you may be the only one here who knows that mind. But we're not. And I look at all the rest of us and sort of smile.
Well, then I best make sure the
money.
coin doesn't stop flowing then, eh?
We'll see. The only thing I know is these mercenaries, the one key to their heart will be their coffer. So, we managed to get one of them bribed, juiced up. We'll be able to get them talking.
Unless they're one of those weird mercenary companies that has a bit of an ethos to them, a bit of a strangeness. where it's not just the coin, they got a bit of a way of doing things. He sort of looks pointedly at Victor. He's one of those weird mercenary ethos companies.
Oh, yes. They certainly seem the type. But what that ethos is, we'll see. I'm just holding out hope that you can grease the gears with a little bit of money.
Well, they're your people. You're Maynard's, though probably more yours than Maynard's. So,
Oh, we'll see.
whatever approach you think's best with regards to them.
But what about this Albrecht fellow? With the I'd be quite like to know what was going on with that wife.
Finding him would mean tracking him down, and there are not a lot of leads. Someone with experience in finding people and having them questioned would be very useful. And Victor looks at Veronica. Isn't that your business? In a way.
Depends if you want to speak to them afterwards or not.
Oh,
Well,
hey now.
well, that's just the last bit of that profession. I'm
It
sure.
only happened once.
Some bloody
twice.
robust questioning, I tell you.
I'm just saying. You can skip the last point of the procedure and have a finder and not a killer.
With all due respect, old boy, I'd quite like to talk to this Albrecht fellow too. You see, you can see Maynard's really weighing things up. He's sort of trying to decide what to say, perhaps what not to say. I just think we should find Albrecht. He seems to have lost interest in Hoffman entirely.
Okay, so to refresh my memory, who is this guy?
Albrecht is a
Servant. The last permanent servant. So we talked to the cook. And this guy was the house fella.
Another thing as well, actually, if you want to know where Freda has gone, then perhaps we go and talk to the stables. She rode a horse, after all. Or we can head to the gate, ask if anyone there remembers her leaving. Try and see if she's still in the city or not. I think we should be focusing...
I can mention with some authority that they haven't at least gone back onto the western side of the bridge. It's not in the company of those fellas.
I'd like to remind you all that our task here is to avoid political crisis here and at home. And Freda, whilst she may have been the wife of a somewhat born-again do-gooder with ideas above his station, was also the sister of the Archduke. You all know that.
Quite funny, Maynard. I was about to actually give you the same speech.
So,
There's two threads to tug on, and we can tug on both at once. We got the people power to do that.
I suppose.
It's all about deciding who is most needed to do what.
Like I said, the thing that's probably the easiest to figure out is those connections with the Red Company. That's going to stick around like a bad smell for quite a while. There's nothing pressing about that. Now, we might have an engagement if we were to so choose to investigate the background, I suppose, of that air symbol. There's a, may come up later is what I'm telling you. There's a place out west, apparently. We've got a guide that will take us there, but might not be relevant right now. Just a point of background in case it comes up again. But I do kind of agree. I think the servant currently can't find him. That's a bit pressing. Might have something on, as you say, Freda.
And another point of interest has escaped you is that he was a Strassland, I guess, like us. So if this strange religious conversion is happening, he might have taken offense at it. And especially if he was serving these nobles when they were about and they were having their little discussions, as you do. He might have overheard a hell of a lot.
You also see, worst comes to worst, if anyone's buried any Strasslanders recently. And Lorenz is not saying that as a joke.
No, I understand your intention entirely.
Loose ends of a way of tying themselves.
So, tomorrow's task. What's the plan for the morning?
Well, you got anything about where a check for Albert?
Yeah.
Got his home address? Or anyone that was close to him?
I imagine
Start a trail
anyone
there.
would know.
Well, I think
Adolf.
Good, two birds, one stone, can ask him about the rig company at the same time. See if he's a little bit more energized after our presence yesterday, or today.
considering he's had to deal with old Hartman over there, he might as well be more exhausted. Oh, we'll see.
Cool. So, we have a plan. And that concludes this episode. Thank you for listening to Valley of Blood. If you like what you've heard and you would like to hear more, please head to mbcast.co for all things Mud and Blood related. We would like to thank Dan Heim for allowing us to use his music for the theme song of this show, as well as some of the atmosphere heard in the episode, as well as story blocks and tabletop audio for much of the sound effects and remaining music. But that is us for now. Tune in 2 weeks for the next episode. Until then, have a good one. Arida.